This book is called Koalu, and it comes from Australia, where there are animals like the wombat, the emu, the wallaby, and of course, koalas. The author is Mem Fox. She's a writer from Adelaide, was born in Melbourne from the south and southeastern part of Australia. Her illustrator is Pamela Lofts. She's from the northern part of Australia and lives in a town called Alice Springs. And together they created Koalu. And while Koalu was first published in Australia for Australian children, children all over the world, including America, have come to love this book. There was once a baby koala, so soft and round that all who saw her loved her. Her name was Koalu. The emu loved her, the platypus loved her, and even though little koala claws next door, the emu loved her, the platypus loved her, and even tough little koala claws next door loved her. But it was her mother who loved her most of all. 100 times a day she would laugh and shake her head and say, "Koalu, I do love you." Whenever she stretched in the early morning, that early morning sun, or climbed a gum tree, or bravely went down the path all by herself, her mother would smile and say, "Koalu, I do love you." The years passed, and other koalas were born, brothers and sisters for Koalu. Soon her mother was so busy she didn't have time to tell Koalu that she loved her, although of course she did. Every night, as she curled up under the stars, Koalu thought about the times when her mother had looked at her and said, "Koalu, I do love you." And she longed for her to say it again. One night, Koalu had a splendid idea. Preparations had begun for the Bush Olympics. She would enter the Olympics. She would compete in the gum tree climbing event, and she would win. And her mother would fling her arms around her neck and say again, "Koalu, I do love you." Koalu began her training right away. She jogged and puffed and lifted weights and panted. She hung from a branch with one claw at a time till she ached. She did push-ups till her stomach hurt. And last of all, she climbed the tallest tree that she could find over and over and over again. Sometimes her mother would watch her and ask, "How you going, Blossom?" "Fine, just fine," Koalu would reply. At last, the day of the Bush Olympics arrived. Koala Claus had also entered the gum tree climbing event, and everyone knew how fast she was. But Koalu wasn't scared. She saw her mother in the crowd and imagined her saying again, "Koalu, I do love you." Her heart filled with hope. It was Koala Claus who went first. Her climb was a record-breaking 22 meters in 70 seconds flat. The spectators whistled and cheered and wildly waved their party hats. "Can I do better than that?" wondered Koalu. I must." As she stepped toward the tree, a hush fell over the crowd. "On your mark, said the kookaburra. "Get set, go!" Koalu leapt onto the tree. Up and up and up she climbed, higher and higher and higher, faster and faster and faster, until there she was, right at the very top. The spectators roared, "Rah!" and clapped and stamped their feet. Yay, Koalu! But she wasn't fast enough. In spite of all her training and all her hoping, it was Koala Claus who won the gum tree climbing. Koalu came second. Koalu went off and hid. She heard the shouts of the Bush Olympics and cried her heart out. When the first stars of evening appeared in the sky, Koalu crept home through the dark and up into the gum tree. Her mother was waiting for her. Before she could say a word, her mother had flung her arms around her neck and said, "Koalu, I do love you. I always have, and I always will." And Koalu sat safely in her mama's arms, and from then on always knew that her mama did love her. So when you think about or learn about all the wonderful animals in Australia, or take out your stuffed wombat, your stuffed kangaroo, or your stuffed koala, remember the story of Koalu, written by Mem Fox, with the illustrations by Pamela Lofts.